everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mission Snapshot. We are so glad that you have joined us today, and we're really excited for what we have to share. It's going to be a little different in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which is coming up next week. So Sharon will be monitoring the comments and questions today, and she'll also be dropping links in the description throughout the show. So if you have anything for her, just put it down in the comments. So we're really excited today because, as I said, it's almost Thanksgiving. And so we wanted to take some time to share what we're thankful for, especially in regards to our evening schools this week. So Veronica is going to share some of that with us.
Yeah, so I'm excited because we've seen so many wonderful things coming from our evening schools this year. And it was a little unexpected, actually. So we just want to talk about that and just kind of review some of the things that we've seen happen in our evening schools. So as many people know, the evening schools are set up to help children in villages with their education, and it's to provide them with additional opportunities so that they don't have to follow exactly in the footsteps of their parents, and hopefully they can lead a more successful life. And while helping them with traditional school, they also help with their spiritual lives, and they help them with learning better moral lessons and how to be more disciplined, and just in many ways helping to fill in the void where some families can't provide properly for their kids. So that's what we would normally do in an evening school. So this year we started off very excited.
Yes,
because
definitely.
as JFA we were going on a mission trip, and we were not just there to host some meetings, but also to open new evening schools. And we had seen God bless in the whole process of putting that idea together. In fact, before you even left for the mission trip, funds had come in to open those schools.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite amazing.
It was really amazing to see.
Yeah. And so we were so excited. We're like, great, and that, by opening those schools, doubled the amount of schools that we had open.
Yeah.
So it was a huge endeavor, but we were so excited. And we went on the mission trip, and everything seemed to go well. There was some illness during the trip. Some of the missionaries got a little bit sick, but at the same time, overall, God just blessed, and it was wonderful. And when the trip was over, the evening schools were, in fact, set to open and start helping the children. And so we were so eager to hear updates from the schools. Like, what's going on? How is it going in these 10 new villages? And then, like nothing we could have predicted, the whole world just kind of collapsed.
Yeah, everything kind of just stopped.
Yeah. And we thought, how is this going to affect not just our new schools, but all of the schools? What's going to happen? How can they help? And so, of course, there were lockdowns. And, India, along with many other countries, just completely shut down. And in India, because the poverty level is so low, and, the villages where we have our evening schools, they're all just very poor places, and the majority of the people there are what we call daily laborers, and so what they earn that day, that's what they use to feed their family for that day. They don't have extra. And so very quickly, the morale and the attitude and just, everything in India became very discouraging, and a feeling of hopelessness just kind of fell over them. They were quite literally dying because they could not feed their families. They couldn't get what they needed.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking to see that happening, but
yes.
So
it is. So, we saw this coming, and we didn't know what can we do? How can we help? We couldn't be there physically. We didn't know if any of our established methods would work, and so we just didn't know. And so
it was hard even getting news for a little bit.
Yes.
Like figuring out like what's happening, or like is anything open at all? Like are they able to do anything?
Yeah. So right at the beginning, maybe the first even 2 months, just getting updates was very difficult. It was hard to get a hold of some of our teachers there, some of our leaders, Bible workers. We weren't getting as much information as we normally would. And so it was just very, it was a time where all we could do was pray and know that God was still with us in this ministry. So, you know, we just had to wait and see what was going on. And when we finally got updates, we learned something very, very encouraging. And what we discovered was that our Adventist churches in these villages where we had evening schools was actually becoming just a light in the darkness to the villagers, to the communities. They were doing everything they possibly could to still help. And the more we found out, the more we realized that they were really the only ones in those areas helping. And so the entire village was just encouraged by seeing that this Adventist church was still willing to go out and risk their own health, their own, you know, prosperity, and in some ways go against what was legal at the time to still help.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear like the testimonies of there were a couple different mothers, I think, who like shared, like, I started being interested in finding out like what's going on here, because I look around and nobody's doing anything. Everything is closed, and nobody cares that we're suffering, except these people care.
Yes, yeah. So it was such an encouraging, I feel like, and I told you this earlier, but I really think that our evening schools and our churches were able to help more because of the pandemic than if they had been running at normal pace and nothing else had happened. I think that they really were able to reach more people. Maybe they would have reached them anyway, but maybe, you know, they reached them more quickly than they would have before, because there was just such a need.
Yeah, people are, more open when they see that there's a need in their own lives.
Yeah. So like we've shared before, you know, the people there were relying on the legal system, and they were relying on the Hindu temples, and you know, praying to their gods, and none of that was helping. And so basically the evening schools, so what they were able to do is they were able to not stay open like normal, but they realized, hey, we're still able to receive our funds, which means we can still buy food. Why can't we still feed these children? And so because that was an effort of keeping people alive, the government allowed them to do that, and they were able to still provide food once a day for the children in the community. So they had funds that God provided to buy enough food to help, I would imagine, more children than they normally would. I mean, I'm guessing, I haven't heard numbers, but I am sure that they probably helped more children than would actually come to an evening school on a normal basis.
Because I know we've heard a lot of stories where parents aren't necessarily wanting their kids to go to the evening school, because they're like, well, this is kind of a religious thing and it's not our religion, so I don't know if I feel okay with this. But like, when you start to, you know, it's like my kid is not getting enough food, we need like something, and these people are willing and you know, helping with this. I will do whatever it takes. You know, I will allow my kids to do something I wouldn't normally, so that they can get what they need.
Yes, we definitely have heard stories like that, and I'm sure there's many more. And so yeah, there were definitely kids who the parents finally allowed them to go just because they're like, well, they need food. I can't see my kid, you know, without food. There were also older kids who kind of on their own said, well, I have nothing else to do, and this is the only place where all these kids are going to this place, and they would kind of follow the crowd and decide, oh wow, okay, this is good, and oh, I get food. And so while feeding them, you know, the teachers were still working for God, and so they thought, well, we have them here, let's still try and teach them something. And so while they were there waiting on the food and eating, the teachers were still able to give them instruction on proper behavior and how to be kind, and teaching them the Bible from just you know, one characteristic at a time point of view. And probably the most important thing is that they were still able to teach them how to pray.
Yeah.
And they were able to incorporate that and say, you know, yes, we're struggling right now, but there's someone who can help you. Let me show you how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And so they were able to teach the kids to pray about what was going on, and you know, anything in their life, and connect them to God in that way, which is amazing.
Yeah, and from that, like some of them have been able to see, and even more, I'm sure, than we've actually like heard the stories of, that it's not only that they're just like you know, praying to a God who is supposed to be this higher power, but they're praying to someone who is listening to them
Yes.
and who loves them.
Yeah.
And they're getting to see that because he's doing things in their lives, and it's really incredible.
Yeah. So it's been such a blessing, and I think it impacted, so it impacted not just the children, but it impacted their parents and others in the community as well, because they saw such a change. And when the kids would go home and they'd say, oh, they taught me to do this, or they said, if I do this, you know, this God will help us. And it opened up opportunities for then the teachers and the Bible workers to teach the parents and other community members how to pray as well, and how to reach, you know, toward the God of heaven and not the Hindu gods who weren't answering their prayers. And so, yeah, it's just, I'm so thankful to see how God was able to use what so many consider a crisis and a tragedy, and he turned that into good. There is blessings in all of it. And so, yeah, it's been great to see how he's helped in that way, and use those evening schools in ways that we never imagined they would be used. I mean, I know feeding the kids is part of the program anyway, but we never imagined that that's the only thing we'd be able to do, and yet still have such a great impact on the community. And it's opened doors, like we talked about just a couple weeks ago, how, you know, the Bible workers in those areas, especially where the new schools are, they hadn't been making much progress. You know, the people of the village were very skeptical and not wanting to let them in and listen to them. And because of the efforts of the evening school during this time, all of a sudden these doors are open and more lives can be reached.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And it, in some ways, like, it seems so counterintuitive that, like, you know, things get hard. You don't expect always, you know, good things to come out of it. But that's like, God is so great at doing that. He's so great at taking even the worst and most dire of situations and making something beautiful out of it. And so we're excited to still see, you know, more stories come. And, you know, even, it's so, I look forward to, like, what God is going to continue to do through the evening schools.
I do too, because we are able to, you know, they are open as a regular program now, for now. Hopefully it doesn't get closed down again. But I think either way, I mean, there's just been such a huge impact, and you're right, there's just more to come, and we know that. And so we're so glad that our little efforts have brought hope and joy back to the community during this time of trial.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much for sharing. It's definitely always a blessing to see how God is working. And so if you'd like to learn more about our evening school program, or if you would like to support the ministry that they're doing in feeding the kids and teaching them about God as well, you can visit the link that Sharon will be dropping in the comments. And if you would like to learn more, you can visit our website at jesusforasia.org to learn more about our other projects. We have them in a lot of different areas. Education, like the evening schools, Bible workers, media ministry, and other missionaries. And so we just ask, as you go through those projects and see if you find one that you would really like to start praying for, we would really appreciate that. The missionaries and the Bible workers would really appreciate your prayers, because they truly make a difference in their ministry, and they open doors for God to work in the hearts of people who might not be willing otherwise. And so, yes, we just invite you to take part through prayer and any other way in which God inspires you to. If you are watching us on YouTube, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. And if you're watching on Facebook, to like our page so that you can find out when we post new videos. We thank you once again for joining us. It's such a privilege to be able to share testimonies and stories and updates with you. Thank you once again to Veronica for sharing with us today. And this has been your Mission Snapshot.